You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, week one is in the bag. How we doing?
I'm doing pretty freaking dandy. I had myself very positive results all over week one, so very happy with that. Took down the rivalry game against our co-host in week one, Derek. So I got a little bit of bragging rights here to start the season. I dominated a work league where I won by 103 points and just kind of it's just a normal ESPN PPR format. So crushed that one. And overall, I think for week one, it was something like 36 and 11. I think I went in week one. So I'm happy with the results. Definitely some room to improve. Definitely going to be looking at some different waiver wire possibilities in the redrafts. The dynasty leagues kind of are what they are. Honestly, at this point, you just got to shuffle the deck and see what you can make work. But I was happy with my team's performances. I was happy with the primetime NFL games. The non-primetime NFL games probably left a little bit to be desired overall. But for all of you Twitter warriors taking your victory laps on the random calls or the few calls, I shouldn't say random, the few calls that we didn't get right, whether it's week one or in the off season or everything else, I promise you I have a list longer than my arm of the calls that we did get right. And if y'all were listening, you guys would have won your league too.
Yeah, I always love the victory lap after week one. And
oh my gosh.
Chucky be darned that there's still 16 weeks left to go.
So as you guys can tell, the angle of my camera is a little different because my computer, much like my fantasy football team this past week, did not work properly. So I'm on my phone, and hopefully this doesn't sound like absolute garbage, unlike what my fantasy football teams were this past weekend. Rough week one. I'm gonna take the mindset of a season is not won nor lost after week one, because I think I went over in the I think I'm in 3 leagues that I care about, that I have an incentive, if you will, on them, and I went over on them. My work league, I had the 101 pick, the number 1 overall pick. And obviously, like everybody else and their brother, I said, I'll take Christian McCaffrey. Thank you very much. And I'll move on from that. And I was down by 0.3 points heading into Monday Night Football. And I wasn't feeling the best. I wasn't feeling the best last night. So I kind of came home early and was like in and out of it. And I woke up from a migraine-induced nap to the news that Christian McCaffrey was not playing. And that was great. That was fantastic news to wake up to from a migraine. Just compound that. Just add right to it. So that was rough. I ended up losing by 5 points because the guy I was going up against had Brandon Ayuk. And the best part was, because it's the Monday night game and my roster was full and everybody else on my roster had already played, I did not have a chance to pick up Jordan Mason because everybody else had been locked into playing. Their games had already kicked. So I got beef with the 49ers. I got beef with Kyle Shanahan. And beyond that, I went up against, in the home league, Kevin, who put an absolute shellacking on me. Even though I put up a respectable score, which would have won, I think, 3 or 4 other games, 3 or 4 other matchups, my score would have won. I happened to go up against the behemoth, and I walked away with an L. So yeah, congratulations to you. Here are your flowers. I hope they stink. And my high school league, I just got worked. I got worked over. There was a few players that did not come through.
Is that your auction league?
Yes, that is my auction league. And I was in it, but again, went up against a guy who had, I think, top score in the week. So top score in the league last week. So Fantastic. Just off to a great start. Really, what I'm saying right now to everybody who's kind of in my situation, where you put up a ton of points, so there's a lot to be encouraged about, but you have no wins to show for it. Wins against the median. That's what I'm saying. Everybody needs to implement in their league, because a win against the median, I'd be sitting okay at this point. I outscored a majority of the teams in my league. I would at least get wins for that. Because that's what fantasy football is all about. Anyways, I've been rambling for a couple minutes now. I'm just trying to process how angry I am, and just
Alex, to make you feel better, you were the 4th highest scoring team in the home league.
It's great. It's fantastic. Thank you, Derek. Thank you for pointing that out, Derek. I appreciate that. Thank you.
My job is to help bring the statistics and the numbers to light there, and you were the 4th highest scoring team in the league. So.
And yet, there are 6 teams with a better record than I.
That is very true. In fact, you went through and you outscored teams by almost 100 points in there that had victories in the league. So, kudos. That was a job well done. So,
I'm just saying that in the league of record, not only am I undefeated, but I am boasting the high point total and the most points against for being an undefeated team.
Them's are facts. So
all of week one.
Week one.
All joking aside, right? If there is ever an overreaction Tuesday,
yes,
it is today, right? It is after the Monday night games have settled. It is you see your final scores and you start replaying the decisions in your head, and you start looking at your roster. Stay the course, y'all. Stay the course. Yes, do your homework on the waiver wire. Yes, there will be time for trades, but do not overreact to one game, both good or bad. So Alex is absolutely right. Not one game does a season make.
Right. And I mean, it's one of those that too, right? To Alex's credit, right? He'll be back here in a moment. We've been pull the curtain back here a little bit. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties throughout the evening, so that was a little bit of the late start there. But Alex is back, all right, and the camera angle looks different.
Yes, the computer is working finally. Holy,
there
cow.
we go.
So man, look at that! All right, we are good.
So Alex, to your credit though, right? When it comes down to it, and Kevin kind of brought up the point as you were switching over there, but start replaying some of the decisions that you made when it came to start, sits, and all of that. In the home league, going up against Kevin, right? There really wasn't many decisions that you could have made differently that could have gotten you more points. And even if you got more points, it still wasn't enough to catch him, right? There is some of that does come down to it. So
no. Even if I'd have had everybody outscore themselves by 40 points, I'm not catching Kevin. It's just, look, I lost
You
because I went up
matchups
against the high scorer this week.
Right.
Yeah. You played the right matchups.
Yeah.
You ran into a really good Chris Godwin week and an amazing Cooper Kupp week that kind of carried my skill positions. And because we have crazy defense and IDP scoring, I mean, that's the difference right there, right? We were looking at it, before the show. Running back position wise, you beat me, right? You beat me running back position wise. I didn't combine the quarterback and super flex positions, but I think you might have gotten me there also.
Yeah, just barely.
Barely. That was pretty even, but it was
104 to 108.
Yeah. So it was wide receiver because of Cooper Kupp just kind of blew the doors off of that, and then on the defensive side of the ball.
It was also a disappointing performance by Evan Ingram, and I know we're going to talk about him later in the show. But that was a really disappointing performance by him, and the fact that I'm going to give the Rams credit. I'm not going to say that it was Amon-Ra's problem, because clearly Detroit was able to matriculate the football down the field. They just weren't doing it through Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm going to give the Rams credit here, but Amon-Ra St. Brown had a nothing game. He had nothing. And that hurt when I was going up against Cooper Kupp, who was catching literally everything because Puka Nacua wasn't playing, a majority of that game. And I know that's a sensitive subject for Derek because Well, Derek,
Look,
go
now
ahead and
it's
talk
like-
about your home league team.
For the next 3 or 4 weeks, you don't have to worry about that decision.
You
Right.
don't. You really don't.
Right. My proclivity for starting the wrong wide receiver in that league is epic. Like there's no two ways about it. We went through it, right? And that was kind of the bane of my existence last year with that team is inevitably I think at one point during the season when we were looking through it, I had 6 wide receivers that were in the top 24 at the position. 6 wide receivers that were top 24 at the position. And inevitably it didn't matter which one of the 3 I started for my 2 wide receivers in the flex. I would choose 2 of them wrong every single week, it seemed like. So that continued this week, right?
It did, but it didn't because your bench wasn't that much better either.
Well, fair enough. But had we played, I don't know, the likes
Any
of
one of those switches and Derek wins his matchup though, because
Right.
his matchup against Tommy was that close.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you
Playing-
did lose by 6 points, but yes.
Right. Well, it's shoot if Cooper Cup or not Cooper, if Puka Nacua plays, gets one more catch for 5 yards, that most likely seals the deal on that one.
Yeah.
Right, with the scoring and all that, like that probably pushes that over. But playing Jacoby Myers over Drake London or Chris Olave would have gotten a win and gotten a win easy, right?
But
Wouldn't
in a
have done that.
million years, you're not
Right,
doing that week
you're
one.
not doing that week one. No, I get it, but just it's frustrating. I can sympathize with many of the viewers and listeners out there when it comes to the start sits decisions and the infuriating rage that happened with some of those performances, right? But it is what it is. We're on to week 2. Real quick though, we do have some comments and some questions coming in here, so let's go ahead and hit these up. Terrence, welcome back in here, Terrence. Terrence saying his roster is Burrow, Kyron Williams, Connor, Chase, Adams, Schultz, Kupp, the Falcons, Santos, Amari Cooper, Jamo, Spears, Fields, Purdy, Hollywood, Brian Thomas Jr. and Keenan Mitchell is on the IR, and he's asking, should they swap the defense for the Chargers, Colts, or Patriots or Broncos on the waivers? So would you be looking to drop the Falcons defense for the Chargers, Colts, Patriots, or Broncos?
I don't know what any of those teams are playing, so let me look that up real quick because I like matchups.
Right now, it's a really good question there, Terrence, and we'll certainly take a look at this and see what this thing looks like. But let's see here.
Okay, so Chargers have the Panthers. Oh, yeah, I would take the Chargers in a heartbeat. They're playing the Panthers.
Yeah.
End of
You're
discussion.
absolutely dropping Atlanta. They're playing Philadelphia, Monday Night Football in Philly. Like, yes, you're absolutely dropping Atlanta. Pick up the Chargers. That'll probably be the most advantageous of this group. After that, I think for
Colts
the
would be
game
one.
script. Well, and I don't think the Broncos would be bad.
I think the Broncos at
in
home against
opener typically do well. And
against who knows
Steelers'
who's playing
offense
quarterback.
is not a juggernaut. That's going to be a low scoring affair anyway. So Chargers first, Broncos second, and then Patriots, then Colts.
I just think of the Colts because we're going to see the Malik Willis experience in Green Bay.
I
True.
think though the kid can run. Like his legs aren't broken. His arm may be terrible, but his legs are not.
Well, they didn't work very well in Tennessee. That's why they actively got rid of him.
I don't think they let him have a chance to work very well in Tennessee.
He had a half a season. Tannehill was hurt. Come on now.
Before Levis was even brought in.
Yeah. Don't
the-
forget.
The faith was so strong they went out and said, you know what? We're going to go get us another quarterback next year. We're going to do this. And so
The kid sees more ghosts than Sam Darnold. Like it's crazy.
So
I don't know about all that.
So yes, drop the Falcons.
Yeah, go get the Chargers.
I would go Chargers first, but Colts is a strong point going up against Malik Willis. I just don't like it because it's a road game.
right. And and Green Bay's defense is good enough too that they could keep that thing close and that could turn into a grimy, yucky type of game. So that was strong analysis there. Grimy, yucky, just in case you were curious. All right. Tara's also saying that he drafted Purdy as a backup, dropped Jordan Mason, and picked up Fields to play. Keep away from the love managers. Plan to hold out for a trade package.
Hold on, go to the next one.
I think dropping Jordan Mason was more damning than picking up Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wondering he's wondering should he drop a quarterback like Purdy or Fields to stash McLaughlin, Madison, Irving, Hill, Algier, or Bigsby?
I think it depends on. He's got Burrow.
Yeah, you got Burrow and you got Purdy.
Fields and Purdy. So he's got all three.
Yeah.
I don't think you need all three.
Need Fields. Yeah, I don't think you need Fields. I'd rather have Purdy because I trust that offense with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco far more than I trust anything that they're doing in Pittsburgh. Brief flashes of, yes, he has some rushing ability, but I don't know. I just when you have Burrow and you have Purdy, it leaves room for getting rid of Justin Fields. So if you can get a great trade for Purdy and bringing a skill position back to the Jordan Love owner, like there's nothing wrong with that option, Terrence. Like that you could play that route, is trade off Purdy or Joe Burrow, and either one of them, whichever one you get a better return on, honestly. So Purdy or Burrow to get a skill position player in return, and then run with Fields and the other quarterback that you don't trade. I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And what you're looking at the waiver wire there doesn't scream anything super exciting for me.
Not yet, especially if you're going to give up priority.
Right. So if that's one of those that you're going to drop in your waiver wire claim, from like 3 to 10 type of thing, not worth that. What's out there? I would hang on and let that ride. Any other thoughts for Terrence?
No.
All righty. Beautiful bearded bees over on YouTube saying hello, everyone. And that's is that
Hakuna Matata?
Okay. Well, Hakuna Matata over on YouTube has Pacheco, Jacobs, Mostert, and Moss with Kelsey and Goddard. Should they target Likely or Dobbins?
I don't think you need to worry. I mean, maybe Dobbins for Mostert. If you're panicking, I think you're fine at tight end.
I guess let me get
maybe
this word out.
Swap
I would
Goddard
be looking to swap out Goddard.
Yeah.
If for either one of them. Here's my thing about Dobbins is again, 1 week does not a season make. I am not entirely convinced that Dobbins has all of a sudden become the workhorse back for the Chargers. I could see them very much taking the same route that the Dolphins seem to be taking. They're just carrying the hot hand, right? Like Mostert has a chest, and Achane has a toe. So we're going to see who's healthier this week on Thursday night going up against Buffalo. So that's an interesting thing. I'm guessing they'll both play, but we'll see how that plays out. Dobbins isn't bad. Running back depth is never bad. And with having Kelsey, I think that's the ultimate buffer. So maybe it is Dobbins slightly, just because the running backs are kind of guaranteed more touches than the tight ends are. And as great as a week as Isaiah Likely had, I don't know that we're going to see him receive 9 targets every single week. Like, I think we need to temper expectations slightly because he had an amazing game, but let's not go out and overreact because Mark Andrews is still on the exact same team. And
still on that roster. Yep.
When the Ravens go single tight end, it's going to be Andrews in most cases, not Likely. But I think what we're going to see out of the Ravens is a lot of 2 tight end personnel so they can get them both on the field. That's just where they're most potent. That's when this offense is going to be at its best, is when both tight ends are on the field.
Well, and Kevin and I talked about this on the Friday show too when it came to Mark Andrews, right? Like Mark Andrews on the field actually allows for a lot of those opportunities for Isaiah Likely, right? When you go back and you look at a lot of those things, Andrews was bracket coverage and double covered. Like there was they the Kansas City made it a point to go out there and say, you're not going to beat us with Mark Andrews, find somebody else. And Isaiah Likely was the somebody else in that scenario, right? Had a terrific game. He's a great player, but at the end of the day, right, like those opportunities opened up because of some of the things that Andrew was also doing out there on the field, and Kansas City trying to scheme him out of the game. So that will turn around, and I don't think we're going to see that, teams allow Isaiah Likely to go through there, and you're going to see these adjustments come through over the next coming weeks. So any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All righty. Harry over on YouTube with Love out, might be forced to start Bryce Young in the Superflex League. Send some help.
Prayers
Well,
up.
let's.
Prayers up, Harry.
What do you got? What else you got? What are we looking at here?
Yeah.
Hey, while we're waiting on Harry to get us, we'll go back to Hakuna Matata. James Earl Jones passed away this week, which is really sad. He voiced Mufasa in The Lion King, which is where Hakuna Matata came from. You also may know him as the voice of Darth Vader, but man, that one was a little sad that James Earl Jones passed away.
That is sad.
Just to kill the vibe here. Let me just kill the vibe.
He was in a lot of different things, right? Because he was in Dreams also, right?
Yep. Also the King in Coming to America.
Yeah.
From back in the day. So,
he was in a lot.
Yeah.
But he should be remembered as a really fantastic. I mean, the voice, that iconic voice of his will be remembered for forever.
All righty. And then back to Harry's question here. Harry, throw what's available on the waiver wire. Let us know kind of what you're thinking here as far as, if you're trying to go out and make some trades, if you're trying to pick something off the waiver wire. There's a lot of options that, and I've done this before, that there's nothing that says that you have to start a quarterback in that super flex.
And if he waited, he has to start one in his quarterback spot.
Here we go.
All right, the bench is Palmer, Dobbs, Algier, Trey Benson. Only other quarterback on the waiver wire is Jacoby Brissett, 20-team league.
So that'll do it. Okay, well, I like Josh Palmer this week going up against Carolina. So I do like that as an option. How Jacoby Brissett is still available in a 20-team league is very curious. So if you're able to IR Jordan Love, which I'm hoping with 20 teams you have at least an IR spot, I mean I'd go ahead and take a stab at Jacoby. You're probably going to have to overpay for him with it being a 20-team league and everybody knowing that you had Jordan Love go down. So it's not going to be pretty unless there's that waiver wire is going to be trashy. 20-team. It's trashy in a 12-team league this week because no one stood out who was, traditionally undrafted. I can only imagine when you add another 8 teams to that. So yeah, Jacoby might be the best bet here. But if it's a fab budget, you're probably going to have to spend a little bit more than what you'd like. And
when I'm looking at kind of early rankings here between the two of them for week 2, there really is not that much difference for them this week. Right, between Jacoby, between Bryce Young. I mean, these are two guys that if you were to kind of put my feet to the fire for early rankings here, like you're talking quarterback 28 and 29, 27, 28. Like you're talking about that, and they're kind of back to back for me on this one, right? Like Malik Willis would be further down the list, but that's like probably one of the few ones. Bo Nix would be in that mix below them.
Put your black and silver on.
Right.
Wave the flag. Hope that Bryce Young figures out how to play football this week.
Right. Will Levis might actually be below there as well. But like those are kind of the 4 guys that I can think that are starting that would actually be below those 2 guys in my rankings. And then those guys were kind of right above that. So
how is that legal? I wish I was in that. Go to Harry's next comment here. I wish I was in a league where I could have done that. Drop the guy who already played.
Yep. There are leagues out there that do that.
That is kind of shady that he was able to drop a player that already played.
Right. Yeah, it happens. I'm not a fan of it. That should be something to bring up there, Harry, in the off season for changing some rules there for the next season. But yeah, at that point, I don't even know that it's necessarily worth going out and spending up on Jacoby at that point, because your return, my perceived return between the two, it's coin flip at that point. So
he got dinged twice, right? Like, he's going to get hit on Dobbs' production, and he got hit on quarterback. Like,
right.
So he lost his starting quarterback and a potential flex play week in and week out for the next month, right? So we gotta help him navigate it. And I guess I would rather have the option of pivoting to a quarterback when you have that many teams, because you know your positional availability on the waiver wire is going to be such trash. So blow it, right? I mean, I'm not saying spend all of your fab budget, but I mean, if you got to spend 25% of your fab to get a bottom third quarterback, but at least it gives you a solid pivot option for the next month, you might need to do that to survive. Like, otherwise you get yourself into a bad trade idea and people tossing you all sorts of garbage and feeling like you have to do it. And at least this way you have a stab at not needing a trade because you have a quarterback to pivot in between.
True. Harry, another thing too to potentially look at, 20-team league, maybe not, but if Jalen Wright's out there as well, that might be another guy to look at for some potential depth out there as well. Healthy scratch here week 1, but Raheem Mostert really didn't look up to, apparently kind of got dinged up on one of those plays. He's on the injury report, didn't practice this week, was limited after he kind of took that shot there. So that could be something to potentially keep an eye on. Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver for the Rams, might be another guy that you could go and potentially try and do.
Hold on. What was it? Oh, shoot. I'll find him. You keep talking. Tyler Johnson. There we go. Another wide receiver for the Rams. And a guy who is, I would damn near guarantee, still out there, who has received praise from Sean McVay, but we didn't see him do anything in week 1 aside from returning kicks, is Jordan Whittington.
Yes.
Like,
there was a lot of preseason hype.
We got, especially late. Like, Sean McVay was really saying this kid is special late. And so with Puka being out, this kid might get forced in also. So there's a couple Rams receivers that I think would probably be a better overall option to put in your super flex spot than a Jacoby Brissett or Bryce Young. So I think that could be a potential pivot option. And I think either one of those guys, Johnson or Whittington, should potentially be out there for your waiver wire, even with 20 teams. They were buried pretty deep.
Yes, they certainly were. So anyway, some potential options out there, some potential pivots for you there, Harry. Hopefully that helps. And Harry's saying thanks for the time. Daniel over on YouTube asking, do they drop McLaughlin from the bench to waiver Tank or Wright? Thoughts on this one? I'm assuming it's Tank Bigsby, not Tank Dell, because I'd be surprised if Dell was still on the waiver. So I'm going to assume that that's Tank Bigsby and Jalen Wright.
Here's why I would say no for the time being. Jalen Wright has not seen the field, so we have preseason hype, but nothing else. Tank did have a good week 1, so that might be a interesting potential. But Jaleel McLaughlin's he's going to catch a crap ton of balls this year. As Bo Nix gets used to the speed of the NFL, and we saw this on Sunday against the Seahawks, right? He looked pretty good in preseason, right? Against some starting players, some backup players, but were the games at like 3/4 speed, essentially. he learned real quick that the game definitely speeds up when you get into the regular season. So I think Jaleel is going to be catching a ton of balls out of the backfield. So if you're in a PPR league, I think you're going to end up being able to cheat, 4 or 5 points a week out of McLaughlin as a baseline just because of balls that he catches. And then, you're just hoping for him being able to break 1 or 2, maybe a touchdown, something like that, to kind of creep into that, double digit type range. But I'm interested slightly in Bigsby as a ETN owner, because if something were to happen, like he showed that he cured his case of the fumbles from last year that kind of got him benched, if you will. So I am interested to see how that plays out as the season goes on. I think a lot of it was just they didn't want to give – I think a lot of these running backs got split work because they didn't want to be getting a full workload in week 1 and risk injury. They're going to build them up to it and kind of get that calloused NFL body on these guys. But it is interesting because he's not going to completely disappear this year, I don't feel like.
Yeah.
Which is what pains me because I don't like Tank Bigsby very much.
Fair enough. Well, and Jaleel McLaughlin certainly had the most touches of the Denver backfield there at the running back. And I think you're right, Kevin. He's a big play. He's a big play guy, can certainly open things up there. And if you get him the ball in space, make a guy miss, and he has big play ability. And certainly has the ability for a lot of catches in this one as well. So I'm kind of just echoing what you're saying there, but I'm right there with you on the McLaughlin over those two. Let's see here. Kenny over on YouTube saying Jalen Wright. I think he's a fan of Jalen Wright here. Colby Parkinson as well with Puka out too. So tight end could be an interesting pickup there. And I think Kenny's maybe trying to help Harry out there with some of those comments there about potential waiver wire for a deep league type of things there, and also throwing Chandler out there. So appreciate everybody helping everybody out in the chat there. Last question, then we're going to go ahead and hit up kind of the next segment. And guys, if you have questions, comments, keep throwing them out there. Let's keep rocking and rolling through them. And all in one show, welcome back in there, saying Flowers, Ford, London, or Higgins for the flex week 2.
Ford, because I know that he's going to get touches.
I'd tell you Ford or Flowers at this point. Probably Ford. Like,
we don't know if Higgins is going to play, right?
Right.
We don't know.
Freaking guy.
London, I mean, we don't know what that situation at quarterback is in Atlanta. I think one of the tweets of the weekend came from Mina Kimes, and it was like, of all the rookie quarterbacks who won big, perhaps Michael Penix Jr. was the one who won the most, because
Kirk
Cousins
looked bad.
Pedestrian.
Yes.
And he didn't look good at all. So I think there's question marks in Atlanta. I think Ford is your safest floor. Flowers, I think, might be your biggest ceiling, and I don't know what you're going to get out of the other two if you're going to even see T. Higgins play. So I'm firmly Ford here.
Yeah, I completely agree with Ford as the floor. I'd tell you London's your highest ceiling because I expect Atlanta to be trailing and having to pass the ball so much to play catch up, something garbage time points and things like that. So I think London might be your biggest ceiling in the way that I view it, but Ford's definitely probably going to be your consistent pick right there. That's probably where I would lean.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. So all in one, like if some of that's going to depend on where you're at and who and how your matchup's set to go. If what you're needing is really a floor play because you're projected to be in the driver's seat and you feel really confident about your matchup against your opponent, take the points and you move on there, right? If you're trailing, if you're projected to be down big there is that possibility that you'll need to swing for the fences, and the fence swing would be London. And then I think Flowers has probably the next highest upside at that point. So just kind of comes down to how the roster is constructed and how that matchup is set to go through there. There you go, Alex. Kenny over on YouTube saying, send Kirk back to Minnesota.
I think they wish
Yes.
they could.
Yes, please feed Justin Jefferson the way he deserves.
Yes. And then Kenny saying, do you guys like Hunter Henry at all?
I do. I still do. Like, I still think he's a red zone prowess. He is a typical tight or touchdown dependent tight end. I think I'll like Hunter Henry more when Drake May gets his shot. And like the crazy thing is New England won that stupid game, right? New
Yes.
England won. Like that.
Yeah.
No one was more disappointed with that week 1 win than Drake May and his family. Like, they're going, really? Like, we look like this and won a game. No one gets more screwed than the backup quarterback in that position. So I think Henry still has some red zone appeal. I just don't. You're not going to see weekly volume out of it, right? You're going to see 5, four, maybe 5 targets, and you're hoping one's going towards the end zone. So I don't mind him. I'm not looking to start him in most cases, especially with all the tight ends currently being pretty healthy right now. There's not really a big tight end injury. I say that, and Njoku's going to be down for a little bit. Ferguson's going to be seemingly down for a little bit with a potential knee sprain. So maybe you do get in that case where you need a Hunter Henry. I had to rethink through that. We did have some tight ends get dinged up a little bit. So, I mean, it's always a gamble when you get that deep in the tight end room. It's always a gamble. You're looking for touchdown upside, and Hunter Henry's big enough. With his 6'6", something like that. He's a big frame tight end, and he does well in the red. So that's what you're hoping for, is that they're able to move the ball, and New England decides to hand it to him instead of giving it to Ramondre.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like it. And then when it comes to the waiver wire, guys, we've put out some videos earlier today that encapsulate kind of our thoughts about the kind of top 2 guys at each position to go through. You can find those on all of the social medias that we have out there, so you can certainly hit that up. Is there any wide or any waiver wire pickup that you'd like to highlight and spend a couple moments on?
I'm going to take the obvious one because I can't believe that he's sitting out there in so many leagues. But if Baker Mayfield is sitting out there on your waiver wire, you need to pick him up. I loved Baker as a late stash, and being able to take him in leagues because he was largely overlooked. But they're running something. It is a version of Sean McVay's offense, right? It's just, and that's what it is. It's a version of, but we've seen Jared Goff have mild success in it before he was traded to Detroit. We've seen Matt Stafford have a ton of success in it. And now they're running this offense with a solid running back in Rachaad White, but 2 Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and they have 2 other wide receivers behind them who are not bad. They're just buried on the depth chart. So I think Baker is a steal off the waiver wire right now as a pivot option, as a keep away option. It's crazy to be thinking about that in week 2, but I made sure he was not on the waiver wire in any league that I'm in during the draft. Like I wasn't even messing around with that. If I had a quarterback, I stashed him again and just made him my number 2. And I think it would be advisable for everyone else to do the same.
I just think the amount of weapons that they have on that offense and the balance that they can provide with a Rachaad White running the football, that like Baker's going to get his, because teams are going to have to respect the run. He's got 2 stellar receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, right? And then you throw in Kate Otten there at tight end. Like he's got weapons. So yeah, Baker's, I think, the number 1. If you are, I'll tell you what, if you're a Caleb Williams owner and Baker Mayfield is out there, you better go get Baker Mayfield right now. Like, spend what you need to spend on your fab budget. Go get Baker Mayfield.
I like it.
That Anthony Richardson, same
Yeah.
thing, right? He made it
Yeah.
through one game, but again, the dude went 9 for 19. Like they're not letting him sit back and chuck the ball around the yard necessarily. But 9 for 19, if it wasn't for his rushing ability, that ain't gonna cut it. So again, having options is a good thing, and so Baker is an amazing pivot to be able to go to.
No.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that one. Couple of comments coming in here asking Jordan over on YouTube asking, is Odunze a hold?
I think so, man. 1 week they looked bad. They were terrible offensively, but I think they're still figuring it out. I'm not giving up on them yet. Just like I'm not giving up on Caleb Williams just yet either, but I'd like to have some insurance, right? Like I'd like to make sure that I see it once before I trot him back out there again.
Right. At this point, it's very interesting to see what comes back. I haven't seen any reports. I know the last that I heard that he was going in for an MRI yesterday. I haven't seen anything come through on that front. So at this point, it may be worth holding on to a little bit, depending upon what we see come back off of the MRI and what this looks like. This very well could be one of those that you flip him into an IR spot and have an easy hold that way too. So I would probably hold tight on that one just a little bit and see what that injury report looks like.
Tom Pelissero, the NFL Network, says it's an MCL sprain. He's deemed week to week. As someone who has suffered an MCL sprain, about 10 days, and you're back to normal, but it was 10 days. So there's real possibility that he doesn't play this week.
Okay. Kevin, any thoughts on the Odunze hold?
I haven't been high on Odunze for this season. And we talked about this in our preseason shows. Like Odunze was just not ever on my radar. You had to spend way too much draft capital on a guy who was the third option with a rookie quarterback. I like him a lot, even coming into next year already. Like I think the kid's going to be good, but in a straight redraft league, it's not where I want to be, right? Like, and that's really what it is. There's talent there, but he's buried on a depth chart. Again, the game's a lot faster in the regular season. Caleb Williams found that out too. So it's a learning process for those rookie quarterbacks, and the third wide receiver on these teams is such a gamble that you probably hold them because there's probably not anything better on the waiver wire. Like unless you are someone has to drop, kind of like the McCaffrey deal. Someone has to drop someone to pick up somebody else as a late start, something like that. Then maybe you go after it on the waiver wire, but he definitely doesn't give me the warm fuzzies.
Right. And what I would tell everybody too is after the waiver wire processes, like that's where also to look too, because you're going to have a lot of folks panic after some week one performances here, and they're going to drop some people that they probably shouldn't have. And that's where you can also clean up there too, right? Like that Wednesday, Thursday, depending upon how your league runs the waivers and where those guys can be available for pickup again. Like that is a prime time to look and see there, because you can typically find some pretty good values out there, and people that shouldn't have been dropped get dropped. All right, we got George. Hey guys, should George use their number one waiver wire priority to pick up Irving? If so, who should they drop? Either Trey Benson or Blake Corum. The running backs are Barkley, Gibbs, Brian Robinson, Jordan Mason, Javonte, and Jalen Wright.
Definitely have all the running back, like rookie running back upside plays here kind of covered.
I'm not.
I wouldn't drop Trey Benson. Like I like James Conner, but he just has not shown that he stays healthy for an entire season. Like Trey Benson will absolutely get called upon this year. And if something happens to Kyron, there are a few things more valuable in fantasy football than a Sean McVay lead back. Like I think you stand pat and just stay there. I don't see Bucky Irving being a workhorse back in this league at any point. Like, yes, he got some carries, but if Rachaad White goes down, Bucky Irving does not absorb all of Rachaad White's work. They then split that up. So I think your roster is pretty set the way you have it, with Mason and Benson and Corum. Like, if anything, yeah, I don't even know if I'm dropping Jalen right for that. Nope, I'd stay pet. Stay where you're at. I think you have all the upside there for late season success. You're all right.
Awesome. Very good. All right. We got one more question, or one more person asking questions. We're gonna hit this one up, and we'll move on to the next segment here. And again, guys, if you have any other questions, comments, go ahead and throw them in. We'll hit them up after the next segment. FBU over on YouTube asking, start Mayfield or Stafford? Easy Mayfield. Any other thoughts?
You're much more confident in that than I am.
I'm
looking at the Rams going up against Arizona, going, I kind of like that lineup. Like,
yeah, I think okay. I can understand why Derek's a little sour towards Stafford and a little more bullish on Mayfield. However,
not sour at all. Like this is one of those that we saw Baker come out and absolutely cook in this one. Granted, going up against a poor Washington defense, Detroit just gave up to Matthew Stafford a top 12 performance on the week here, and this one I feel like is going to get a little shootouty with this Detroit Tampa Bay matchup more so. So it's an easy start Baker for me.
I see where your head is, but man, is it not? I mean, Stafford going up against Arizona like that just feels like just cherry picking for him.
Oh, I like the Baker call. I don't think I'm quite as convicted as Derek, but
yeah,
I don't mind the Baker call at all.
I'll defer to Derek here, but I agree. I like Baker. I like him a lot. Again, we just got done singing his praises as the number one target for anybody looking for the waiver wire. So I'll back Derek on this one.
So, all right, I like it. And then good looking. We are some good looking gentlemen. I will admit. FBU say that. I'm not sure what that was too, but
good looking. Yeah, I'll take that. It's about us. Yeah.
Sure. FBU says got Ferguson, should have dropped Benson for Likely. If you don't have another tight end out there, you're gonna have to make a move on something, and Likely would be a guy to be worth going out and getting. And if you're not able to get Likely on that one, I would then pivot and go after Colby Parkinson.
I hate that you have to drop Benson for that, though.
I'm not a fan of it either, but that's the option that I'm seeing and given. So, FBU, if you got some other options out there that you'd be looking to potentially drop there, let us know, and we'll give our thoughts on that. All righty. Any other? Let's go ahead and hit on over to the. I guess, guys, any other thoughts on the waiver wire before we move over into some pine and shines?
No, let's move over.
All right, awesome. So recapping Pine and Shines last week, Alex, this is your moment, my friend.
Again, I will point out, week one does not a championship make, as we will find out here. As bad as I did in literally every fantasy league, I guess I did this one okay. So something's off because I'm terrible at this, and I did okay this week.
Well, let's be fair. You made one amazing call in this one.
I did, and one of my calls didn't end up playing, so that kind of helped, I think.
Probably.
My guy not playing hurt.
Yeah, I think your guy not playing hurt. And the one amazing call which I don't even think was that great of a call. Do we want to get into it? I can get into it here. All right. So my Pines from week one, I had, I'm looking at the wrong page here. I had Josh Jacobs, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Pat Freiermuth. And Josh Jacobs was projected 15th with 13 points. He ended up finishing running back 26 with 11 points. I got 12 out of that because of the positional rank, basically. Pat Freiermuth was projected 13th. He actually finished 15th. I got 4 points out of that. Marvin Harrison Jr. was projected 13th for 12 points. He ended up finishing 104th with not even 1 whole point, and that's what saved me there. I got 119 points total when it came to my Pines. I'll let you guys talk through your Pines.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and go next with my Pines. Yeah, it was kind of ho-hum, middle of the road, right? Like it had the calls of Jamar Gibbs, Jalen Waddle, Travis Kelce. Jamar Gibbs touchdown certainly kind of saved him a little bit there. Otherwise, that would have been a better looking call. Travis Kelce, not a very Travis Kelce-esque performance there, and Jalen Waddle performed better than I had anticipated, but still all of those guys finishing below their projections as far as the positional rank goes. So I had an okay shine week there, or okay pine week. It was the shines that kind of did me in. Kevin, how about your pines?
I am confused on this. There we go. Never mind. My Pines, I had CMC because I didn't think he was going to finish as RB1. I got a DNP on that one. Jamar Chase, because on Tuesday's show, I didn't think Chase was going to play, and Higgins was maybe. He played, and luckily he didn't hit projections, so I got some points on that one. And then George Kittle. Thought with the Jets defense they'd do a decent job locking him down, and that was about the case. They did an okay job. He came in just under projection, so built up a little bit of a bank there, and then I blew it all out on the shines.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, none of our shines were overly spectacular when it came to it. But
in fact, mine were downright terrible. So my shine running back was Devin Singletary, projected 28th with 10 points in half-point PPR. He actually finished 36th with 7 points. So I lost 10 points on that one. My shine was T. Higgins, which I'll let you in on a little secret. Before we started, I had put Amon-Ra St. Brown there. And thank God I changed it before we got to the segment last week, because that would have been just terrible. Because Amon-Ra St. Brown did not have a great week. Anyways, T. Higgins didn't play, so I got no points for that, which I think probably benefited me given how bad Cincinnati's offense was. I think that was a benefit to me. And then I had Cole Kmet projected tight end 17 for 6 points and put up a Marvin Harrison number of 0.9, and he was tight end 48. So I whiffed completely on my shines. And if, again, as Derek said, if it weren't for one call, I would be in the hurt locker this week.
Yeah, it certainly happened. So my shines, I had kind of just a ho-hum bag when it was all said and done. One call that really didn't work out there, but the rest of these guys were kind of right around their projections, a little bit under type of thing. But Jaleel McLaughlin, Jacoby Myers, Kate Otten on this one. Kate Otten was the one that really kind of hurt this one for me. Finishing was projected to be tight end 19, tight end 44. So really rough from Jaleel McLaughlin below his projection there, and Jacoby Myers. Kevin, how about your shine?
Sorry, I'm messing with my speakers because it feels like you're screaming at me.
Okay.
So my shines all sucked. I had Raheem Mostert. I thought that he'd be more involved in the running back room there for Miami. He laid a turd, put me in a big hole. And then Christian Watson, who actually did a little bit better than projections. Not quite enough though. I needed a little bit more out of him, but he got me a couple points. And then Noah Fant, who I not think the Broncos were going to be that good against the tight end. Like they just did not target Fant enough. So, I ended up losing a couple points on Fant. So overall, I was negative for the week. Not completely damning here for week one. It just looks big because Alex had a big week, but I started in a hole last year and then came back, so I'm not going to freak out about it.
Yeah. And Kevin, with that, like last 2 weeks of the season, just finish.
It's just like hero screamed his way into the
Yes.
I called my shot 4 weeks out.
You did. And it was, I mean, it was like we were all running the race, and then here comes Kevin in a Ferrari, and we're still lacing up our sneakers. That was a heck of a comeback last year. Heck of a comeback.
Yes. So for FBU had a couple of questions coming in here as well. With that Ferguson deal, drop Benson for likely. He let us know that he could also drop McLaughlin. Okay. And then said that he just changed it to drop Gabe Davis for likely. The wide receivers are Evans, Garrett Wilson, Amari Coopers, and Neighbors.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Any thoughts there, Kevin?
No, I don't have any problem with that. That's fine.
Yeah, and he says he's keeping Benson. So, yep, I think that's probably the way to go. Awesome. Let's see here. FLS over on YouTube saying they need our help. Got offered McBride for likely outright.
Give me the McBride side.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not even going to question it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're getting McBride for Isaiah Likely, smash yes, move on.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Will, over on YouTube, should I drop Rico Dwaddle and pick up Alexander Madison?
No.
Yeah, no.
Alexander Madison is a catch and run. He's not going to be highly involved in this offense. He just happened to get a dirty touchdown here to start the season. I would keep Rico because as the season continues to go for the Cowboys, they're going to have to monitor Zeke's touches, and Rico will inevitably be sucking those up.
Yeah. I would agree.
You see it playing out similar to like a Pollard Zeke situation? Is that kind of how you look at this? Like there are parallels there, right?
There are. I think while this is the beginning of the season, you use Zeke while he's super fresh as much as you can without, breaking the guy. But ultimately, I see him getting 12 touches a week. Like it's not an outrageous number, but I think when we get into this, you're going to get 12 touches a week. Zeke's going to be on the field for some obvious passing down work at times just because he's so good in pass pro. So he's going to be on the field at weird times. So his snap share is going to probably look slightly different than the usage numbers, if that makes sense, right? Like pay attention to routes run and touch percentage, if you will, is really what you want to kind of look at. But I think the Cowboys are comfortable with Zeke. That they know that a lot of that team has been around Zeke before, and there's history there. And he's going to be their 5-yard line guy, right? So anytime they get inside the 10, especially now with Ferguson being hurt, right? Like you're going to give Zeke at least one, if not two, cracks at it inside the 5-yard line almost every time.
Yeah.
Like obviously game clock kind of determining, right? If it's winding down, you're not going to run the ball. But anytime in the middle of the game where you can run your full offense there inside the red zone, Zeke's getting two cracks at it.
I like it. Kenny was saying that Zeke should be the RB1. No, not a. But
yeah, I mean, he had a respectable week 1, right? 12.9 PPR points. So what, half point would have been a little bit less than that because he had 2 receptions, Derek? Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. It wasn't many, but
so it would have been slightly less than that. But he found the end zone. Like that's ultimately what it is. You want Zeke to find the end zone, and if he does, he returns flex appeal. And if he doesn't find the end zone, you're kind of dog cussing it a little bit because he's probably only going to get you 7 to 8 points.
Right. And don't forget, Kenny let us know here to remind us that Zeke also plays backup center. So there is that as well. So
we saw how well that went last time.
Exactly. All righty. Let's hit up a couple more questions. We're going to hit the Thursday night preview here.
Oh, we got to get this week's Pine and Shines.
Well, that comes after Thursday night.
Oh, all right, fine.
Give it a throw.
All right, Jordan, over on YouTube. Do you think? How do you think Kelsey will do against Cincy? Likely is on the wire. They have the third priority. Doubt he lasts that long though.
I think the struggle that we're going to have with Travis Kelsey this year is once Hollywood Brown comes back, Patrick Mahomes is going to be surrounded with more pure weapons than he's probably ever had in his career. With Pacheco out of the backfield, you still have Kelsey, but you have Rashee Rice, who Patrick Mahomes seems to have zero problem leaning on, right? And Rice looked good against Baltimore. Obviously, Xavier Worthy is going to be continuing to get involved in this offense. They're going to create ways to put the ball in his hands, whether it's on deep fly routes or end arounds like he scored his first touchdown on. So there's going to be some things built in that he's not going to have to force feed Travis Kelsey anymore. Now, if a game's on the line and Patrick Mahomes needs 8 yards, I'm still not convinced that he's absolutely not looking at Kelsey first, second, and third before he looks anywhere else. And they will continue to find ways into it. It was just week 1. So I don't mind Likely. It's a nice pivot, right? In case Kelsey gets dinged, in case you need a weird flex play. Like, I don't mind that, but I'm still starting Kelsey over Likely.
Right. Yes. I would agree 100% on that.
Alex is swaying like he has a different opinion.
No, I'm looking at something else. I forgot about the Thursday night game.
Well,
trying to do the work that I was supposed to do before the show right now.
There you go.
I didn't even get the show doc sent to me, so
I didn't either.
You know what? I'm gonna have to talk to that guy.
The producer is gonna get a talking to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be him when I'm done with him. So
I just realized, oh shit, I didn't send it. I sent everything else.
Yep, there may have been a lot of stuff sent, but we're gonna have to talk to that producer and set them straight. So, alrighty. Yeah. Well, whoops. All right. All right. Brandon, over on YouTube, saying the Texans are leading the league in rushing. Mixon, running back 1 there, from worst to first in 2 years.
Week. It's just 1 week. It's just 1 week, and that's okay. Look, I think Houston's going to be really good this year. I really do. I think they've got a lot of good players, but and it's just 1 week.
Yeah, at this point though, they certainly did go from worst, but I don't know that you can say first. They play in the AFC side of things. Until you can dethrone
in the AFC South, no less.
Right, but until you can dethrone the Chiefs, you can't say that you're in that first type of deal, right? Back to back, which bugs the living daylights out of me being a Broncos fan. But anyway, moving on. Alrighty. Okay. So guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit up the Thursday night football preview and kind of give our thoughts on that one here. I do see that there's a lot of comments and a lot of questions coming through here. We'll make sure that we hit these up and we come right back to them, but we're going to go over and touch on the Thursday night game and we'll be back to some comments and questions here in just a moment. Alrighty. So guys, Thursday night football. We've got Buffalo. We've got Miami. The Dolphins favored by 1.5. The over-under on this one, 48.5. Thoughts on this one?
Give me the Dolphins minus the points. And I'll take the under. Yeah, I'll take the under. So I'm going to give you a prop.
Yes.
Still trying to find one. Hang on. Keep going.
I haven't even looked at the props yet. But I'll go Dolphins and over. I know traditionally Thursday nights are under, but I think this game being a night game in South Beach, maybe I don't. Weather, well, they're getting the tail end of that, just the whip around from that storm.
Yes, and that thing won't. I don't think it should impact South Florida so much. At least certainly by Thursday night. But it will be. I mean, it's Florida in September. There's gonna be rain. Like Whether it's during the
I'm
game
taking the
or
over. Home run plays regardless.
let's go for it. All right.
Josh Allen's going to run 2 in. 2 is going to have 300 yards passing because he's going to hit a couple deep balls between Tyreek and Waddle. I like the over. Screw it. Dolphins win. I like the fact that what did we get it at, Derek? We locked this in at 1.
1.5.
I like the 1.5 here. I do. I like the 1.5 here, so I'm going to take that. And then let's see here. I am going to take Josh Allen over 37.5 rushing yards.
I like that one. I am also going to take the Dolphins in this one, right? Like home game, Buffalo let Arizona hang around that way too long for me to feel comfortable about that one. And quite frankly, Buffalo probably should have lost that game to Arizona. But neither here nor there. I am going to do something hyper unusual here, and I'm going to take the over in this one. Typically Thursday night games, lower scoring affairs. The fact that we just went through an entire week of rather low scoring contests, not much offense on this one. I think we see a course correction happen here a little bit. We see some offenses show up and stand out. Certainly both of these offenses can make some plays quick, fast, and in a hurry. And one of the props that I really like is James Cook to go over 18.5 receiving yards.
Yeah. All right. I'm still hunting for a prop that I like because I haven't found one that's gotten me excited.
Waddle over 63.5.
The what?
Waddle over 63.5. Here.
Oh,
I'll find you a good one. Hold
I'm
on.
not sure I appreciate that one. Give me Tua over 1.5 touchdowns. Passing touchdowns.
All right. Hey Kevin, I missed the prop on yours. What was your prop?
Allen over hold on, let me see what I have. See if I can get a better line here real quick.
38.5.
Hmm.
But if you can find a
I think
better
it was
line.
37.5 is what it initially gave me. But let's see if I can get a better number. No, 37.5 is the best I got.
37.5 rush yards.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, awesome. So there's the thoughts on the Thursday night game and how we're kind of seeing that one rock and roll there. Let's go ahead and head back over to the comments, unless we've got some other questions or any other thoughts on this game.
Nah. Should be fun. Like, we'll see what Miami does. Short week. I think it favors the home team. Buffalo they were at Arizona week 1, weren't they?
I'm pretty sure that was in
Oh,
Western
it
Buffalo.
was in Buffalo. You're right. I know what I'm talking about.
If it was in AZ, we probably would have seen the afternoon slot there, not the morning.
That's fair.
All right. Let's go ahead and head right back here. So FBU saying they're in a 12-man standard league. Rate the running back room with Hall, Mixon, Zeke, Benson, McLaughlin. I like it. 12 team there. There's not a ton of like real depth there, but you've got 2 guys to go out there and handle your workload there, and barring injury, you're pretty well set on that front.
Yeah, I like Hall and Mixon anchoring it for sure. Zeke's a nice fill in potentially in a flex spot or during a bye. I think Benson will get some run here this year because I don't anticipate Connor being healthy for all 17 games. And like I said, McLaughlin, he's going to catch a bunch of balls. So I'm not scared to put him in a pinch.
Right. So that was the next question. Who should they put in the flex in a standard league?
What are the receivers? Wide receivers. Hold on. Wide receivers are.
There we go. Evans, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, and Neighbors.
I'd probably go Neighbors against the.
Yeah.
I think what I want to lean towards here to start with. Browns versus Jags. Meh.
Sure would be nice if Neighbors shows up because he did not in week 1.
Wait, dude, what did you expect?
I know. He's a rookie. I get it.
He did better than Marvin Harrison Jr., and everyone was drafting him in the second round.
Yeah, but see, I expected Marvin Harrison Jr. to suck. So
I think I'm playing Neighbors in the flex for this week.
Yeah, I would
If you don't
agree
like
with
if you don't like the Neighbors, you could go back to Zeke and see if you can get lightning twice.
Yeah, I mean Zeke is one of those, and in a standard flex, that's really what you're hoping for is touchdowns, right? And so that's kind of where you're banking on there is Zeke to fall in the end zone if you're starting him there. Alrighty, let's see here. There we go. Okay, so Chris over on YouTube, will Lazard be consistent as a wide receiver 2 at minimum? Not in my opinion. No. No.
I'm going to answer your question with another question. Has he ever shown that he can consistently be a wide receiver 2 in his 9 years in the NFL? Same answer. No. I think Mike Evans, and here's why. I'm being a bit of a smartass. Mike Evans is continuing, like they had him on a pitch count. He's going to continue to get healthier. I understand he didn't see any targets. He's still kind of got to get up to speed with Aaron Rodgers. So I think short term, Lazard can be viewed as a wide receiver 2, really a flex, right? Like I think he can be the Jets wide receiver 2. But I think for fantasy purposes, Lazard could be viewed as a potential flex option until Mike Williams gets healthy. But as Williams continues to work his way back and gets that chemistry down with Aaron Rodgers, the talent of Mike Williams will prevail over the familiarity with Allen Lazard.
All right, I like it. Any other thoughts on that one? No. All right. All righty. Let's go ahead and check this one out. FBU. Oh, we already answered this one, but it looks like it was just posted a little bit different format there. So, this one here we were leaning on Neighbors for the flex. If you want running back, it'd be Zeke trying to go for touchdown upside there. All right, Mark over on YouTube. Do you think Jamison Williams will continue to repeat his week 1 performance, or most likely no?
I hope not, says the Amon-Ra St. Brown owner. I think there's a possibility. It is now teams are going to have to figure out who they want to stop. I think that Jamison Williams has put it on tape now that if you're going to take away Amon-Ra St. Brown, he is a viable option for Jared Goff to throw the football. So teams are going to have to figure out, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to stop? Do we want to throw the safety, shaded towards wherever Amon-Ra St. Brown is? Do we want to throw the safety shaded towards wherever Jamison Williams lines up? Do we want to, pack the box a little bit more to stop, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs? And defenses are going to have fits trying to figure out what they want to slow down with this Lions offense. Do I think he repeats week 1 performance? I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 other times this year, but I think the Lions are going to try to scheme their way to get Amon-Ra St. Brown some more targets in one way or another. You have to get him involved in that offense.
Yeah. Kevin, any thoughts on this one?
I think he's a good flex option with low-end wide receiver 1 upside. You're going to have to hit the home run play. I don't think you're going to ever see the volume that you do out of your traditional wide receiver 1. His way to get to that path is going to be chunk yards and a touchdown. He's not going to get it there off of volume like Jefferson, Chase, Cooper Kupp, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown can, right? They can get to a wide receiver 1 without being in the end zone. Same thing with Tyreek. Tyreek, a lot of his big plays end in touchdowns, so you get the bonus points, but Tyreek, can do that without getting into the end zone because he still sees enough volume. So I like JMO, like I do, but I like him as a flex, as a high-end flex option who can have a big game and really kind of make a difference for you. I don't know that I trust him as a week in and week out starting wide receiver.
Right. No, I completely agree. This is, again, one of those that we saw Jamison Williams, do all of that damage on 5 receptions. So, almost 25 yards per reception on this thing, which that kind of yardage just isn't sustainable to this. And I don't think that we're going to see him necessarily see those 9 targets going forward as well. I think this is one of those that we'll kind of see this settle down, see him, probably start running much closer to 4 for 6 on a week and maybe 60 yards type of thing, right? Like, I think that's probably more realistic where you're going to start seeing this one come through. But there's certainly the home run potential there. Reese over on YouTube saying just traded. I'm not sure who
Devontae Adams, Ramondre Stevenson, and Kyle Pitts for Bijan and Laporta.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. I was having a tough time reading that one. All right. So thoughts on this one?
If you came out on, I'm reading it as you came out on the Bijan Laporta side, and if you did, congratulations. Good. I like that. So overall, I think this is a pretty even trade, right? A lot of names involved. You kind of understand, but the way the points balance out, like, yes, you get better at running back and tight end, but you don't get anything there for wide receiver. So you're relying on your depth piece. If that team felt like they needed some more depth, like, I don't hate this. I definitely like the Bijan side more because he's the best player in the deal. And that's, typically how you want it to work out is you feel like you're getting the best player in the deal regardless. So I like that side a little bit more, but I can understand part of it for both sides.
I like it. Any other thoughts? So FBU saying last question, traded CMC right before the game last night started and picked up Hall as that trade. What I wanted to know if that was a good move.
Absolutely. So, little insider information. I did not take CMC in any draft that I had the 101.
Did you take Breece Hall?
I took Breece Hall once. I took CD a couple times in the best ball. I took Tyreek a couple times in the best ball. Trying to remember if I think I did Bijan once too, but I did not take CMC in the 101 spot in a best ball.
All righty. Let's see here. I like the move, right? Especially with the fact that this
guy
injury
played last night, the other didn't.
Right. And this injury could linger a little bit, right? Like I saw some reports coming out that this is some Achilles tendonitis, which that's those soft tissue type of things kind of worry and kind of scary, especially to start the season off here. So
especially we're going to see 400 touches again. Like, and showing that Mason can do some very similar McCaffrey type things. This is making it worse for McCaffrey owners. Like, because now even when McCaffrey comes back, you figure, yeah, he might be our guy and he might be our guy in crunch time, but I see a lot of spelling for him if Mason keeps this up and continues to win over the confidence of the coaching staff and the players on the field. Like, they don't have to force McCaffrey on the field for anything. If this is kind of a 1A or 1 and 2 situation. I'm not going to say he's a 1B yet, but a true 1 and 2 situation that Kyle Shanahan's system can absorb this, and we've seen this with all sorts of Shanahan systems. We lived it in Denver, right? How many guys did we plug in at running back and they'd go for 1,000, 1,100 yards? Oh, look, there's another Pro Bowl out of a Denver running back. Like, we've seen this, and it's awesome when you have an all pro like McCaffrey, but it can be done without it. And the Broncos back in the 90s showed that. It's part of the Kubiak Shanahan type system. They're able to feature a guy without him needing to be a all pro player.
Yeah, I can understand that. All righty, let's go ahead and head on over here to Terry. Welcome back in, Terry. Terry saying best waiver ad full PPR, Christian Watson or Rashid Shaheed.
So short-term Shaheed, long-term Watson.
Agree.
Like, I don't like Watson currently with Malik Willis being the quarterback. You get me a month from now, and we'll see what happens. And again, the Packers have not put Jordan Love on IR, right? There is a reason they're doing this. Like, whether they're talking to the team doctors, whether it's a little bit of optimism. Yes, he's probably not playing this week, and I don't even expect him to play next week. But I think that third week out, I think the Packers are holding out optimism that they're going to keep him active, if you will, and only be without him 2 games instead of 4 by sticking him on the short-term IR. So, excuse me. The way I look at it is I still have a man crush on Christian Watson this year. I made no short comments about that when talking about the Packers this season. And I'm going to stand by that. I think Watson absolutely is still a big time component to this offense. I just don't like him for the next 2 or 3 weeks while Love is out. Shaheed, I like. I like him a lot more in best ball than I do redraft because I still think he's a high-low type player. And I don't trust Derek Carr that much. It'll be interesting to see the same Saints team. I think that they got the Cowboys this week, right? Go up against the Cowboys, who have a little bit better defense than the Panthers here, and see how this stacks out for them. So I am interested to see how this shakes out for Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, and company.
I like it. Full PPR, which one? Mason, Amari Cooper, James Cook.
So this one's tough because you got to make the decision by Thursday night, right?
Right.
Like if you Cook, you got to go Cook early, and then you just live with the consequences after that. I think I'm going to lean James Cook. Yes, this McCaffrey injury is day to day, but at any point his workload could be cut in half or more if McCaffrey does suit up and play on Sunday. Deshaun Watson looked freaking terrible against the Cowboys on Sunday, so I'm having to reevaluate what I'm doing and my thoughts on Amari Cooper here until things settle in Cleveland a little bit. And there's still really no one behind James Cook. Like, he's going to catch passes out of the backfield. He's going to get the ball between the 20s. Like, the most frustrating thing about James Cook that your owners experience is the lack of touchdowns, because Josh Allen will take everything inside the 5 and just run it in himself.
Yeah, I like it.
I think in this situation, I am going to go Cook.
Yeah, I'm leaning Cook on this one as well, right? Like, we saw Jordan Mason having a fantastic night last night. I think he continues that, but to that point there as well, right? Like, if CMC suits up, like there's a whole lot of difference in a workload volume on that one. Whereas James Cook, I feel pretty confident that we're going to see at least 100 yards from scrimmage from James Cook week in, week out. Alex, any other thoughts on this one?
Nah, cosign.
Terry, Debo, or Godwin full PPR? It's Godwin easy for me on this one.
Yeah, Godwin.
Cosign.
Kincaid or Likely full PPR?
Kincaid.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean on the Kincaid side.
I know he had a bum, but I'm taking the opportunity, and the opportunity still with Buffalo is we don't quite really know how this route or target distribution is going to work. In week 1, it was spread out quite a bit between Mac Hollins, Shakir, Coleman. Kincaid didn't see a whole lot of work. Curtis Samuel didn't see a whole lot of work, and that was a guy I thought we'd get a little bit more out of. Obviously, James Cook is involved in the passing game there, but I'm not going to I refuse to overreact to Isaiah Likely's week 1 outcome. And therefore I drafted, if you drafted Kincaid, you likely spent a, 4th round pick, give or take, on the guy. So he's going to be my starter here for at least another week or 2 until I can truly determine otherwise with what Buffalo's doing.
It's tough because, excuse me. Pardon me. It's tough because both of these guys are dealing with other tight ends on the roster that are viable options, right? Like that's what you're dealing with. So I think I like Kincaid's role a little bit more than Dawson Knox's role in Buffalo, more than I like Likely's role versus Darren Waller, because again,
Mark Andrews.
Thank you, Mark Andrews. Because again, Mark Andrews is on the team, and there was an effort to make sure that Mark Andrews did not beat them.
Yeah, I like it. All righty, let's go ahead and head over into the pine and the shine here, and we'll rock and roll through this one. Very similar to how we've done this one in the past, right? We'll all run through our pine running backs and continue that on through, and then get into the shines and each go through that one there. All righty, so guys, it is time for the pine and the shine. And the pine and shine is, again, one of those that we are looking to see guys that we think are going to underperform their projections here for fantasy week 2 with the pines. Alex, go ahead and kick it off.
All right, so for my pines this week at running back, I'm going to take Joe Mixon. He's projected running back 9, 14.4 points in half-point PPR. The Texans are going up against Chicago, and that defense looked pretty salty. It looked pretty good. So I think yards are going to be tough to come by for them. So Mixon is my pine running back. My pine wide receiver is Justin Jefferson. He's projected to finish wide receiver 6, 14.4 points. It's the Niners defense that they're going up against. And yes, I know they're at home. And yes, I know that Rodgers was able to kind of get something on them. But I think that the Niners are Sam Darnold's not Aaron Rodgers. But I guess that's probably the best way to put it. So give me JJ. Jettas, as I guess is what he's going by now. And then my tight end, I know we just got done talking about it, but I'm going to go Mark Andrews again. I just think that there's a little too much here. He's projected tight end 7, 9.6 points in half-point scoring. If I'm going to be honest, I think it's just one more week of Isaiah Likely, and then I think Andrews gets his.
No, fair enough. So for my running back, my pine this week is going to be Bijan going up against Philly on Monday night. I think that there's going to be some big-time focus on Bijan from the Eagles and being able to stop that run game. So I don't think he's going to get to whatever it is, the 18 and a half points that he's projected. On the wide receiver side, I'm putting Marvin Harrison Jr. on there again. And this is the one I'm probably least confident about. Like, you could see him bounce back and kind of get burned on this one here a little bit. But I think to go from basically half a point to over 12 points is quite a lot for a rookie receiver, even within a week-to-week option. So I think, you might see some progression, but I don't think it's going to be enough to burn me on this one, hopefully. And then on the tight end side of things, I'm going Evan Ingram. I think Jacksonville show me that they're actually going to be able to work with him and Christian Kirk on the field at the same time, because I really tried to ignore that speech of this doesn't happen and blah 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 blah, and then neither one of them got fed in week 1, so now I'm kind of going, what the hell. So Evan Ingram is on my pine list.
I like it. All righty, on my pine, I've got James Conner as the running back pine, currently running back 14, projected to do about 13.4 points, going up against the Rams defense. Rams defense has been a little bit tougher over the last little bit against some of the opposing running backs going back into last season. So I do think a little bit of a of a slowdown here coming for James Conner here in week 2. With that being said, moving on over into the wide receivers, I've got AJ Brown listed as my Pine underperformer wide receiver here. Going up against Atlanta, the Falcons have had some pretty good success lately against opposing wide receivers here. This is also one of those two that this could very well become a game where that Philly just kind of jumps out and Atlanta, unless we see a drastically different offensive unit out there, has a hard time keeping pace and keeping this thing tight to the point where this just becomes a ground and pound and run out the clock type of game here going down the stretch. So AJ Brown is my Pine underperformer for the week on wide receiver. Tight end, I've got the rookie Brock Bowers on a little bit of a slowdown week here. Brock Bowers going up against Baltimore, tough defense. We just saw them limit Travis Kelce into a not so great performance here in week 1. I think that we can see that continue over here into week 2, and Brock Bowers and the Raiders struggle mightily here against the Baltimore here in week 2. Any other thoughts on the Pines?
No, let's shine.
All right, let's shine it up. So moving on over to the Shines. The Shines are guys that we think are going to outperform their projections and have some really good weeks. Alex, why don't you go ahead and start this one off?
All right, so I'm gonna stay with my same game here at running back. I'm gonna take DeAndre Swift. I think Chicago, if they're gonna have any success in Houston, that crowd is gonna be bumping. It's Sunday Night Football. It's the first time that Sunday Night Football has been in Houston for eons. The town is excited. That fan base is going to be excited. I think if Chicago has any inkling of trying to win that game, they're going to need to control the clock. You do that by running the football and keeping that Houston offense off the field. So give me DeAndre Swift, who did not have a great game last week, but really none of the Bears offense did. He is projected running back 26 at 10.8 points. At wide receiver, I'm going to take DK Metcalf. I think that the Seahawks are going to have to find a way to get him involved. I know they're going across the country to New England, but I think that there's going to be an emphasis to get DK involved in this week's game. So give me DK Metcalf, who is right now projected wide receiver 25 at 11.2 points. And then at tight end, I'll take the low-hanging fruit. I'll go Colby Parkinson here with Puka out. Targets are going to go somewhere. He showed that he could be an option there in week 1. So he is projected tight end, at least right now, tight end 15 with 6 fantasy points in half-point PPR. I think he easily crushes that.
Fair enough. My shine running back is going to be Jaylen Warren going up against the Broncos. We saw how Seattle was able to kind of wear down that defense, especially in the second half, and Kenneth Walker was able to kind of take that over. I think we're going to see some similar stuff out of the Steelers. And really, I took Warren because there's much more value and opportunity here for him to shine than there was Najee, who's ranked about 20 spots higher than this. So he's projected to do 7 points at running back 42. On the wide receiver side, I'm taking Josh Palmer, wide receiver 43, going up against the Carolina Panthers. So projected 9 points. So I think there's some real opportunity here for him to be able to make some hay here and help eat into my early season deficit to Alex. And then on the tight end side of things, I'm taking Cade Otton, coming in at tight end 19, projected total 5.7 points. I have a sneaky suspicion that he might be one of the lucky Buccaneers who gets into the end zone against the Lions.
I like it. I like that Cade Otton call, especially I was leaning that way for a long time. So I like that one. All right. My shines. I'm going to focus on that same game Kevin just talked about on the running back here. And I'm going to take Najee Harris on this one here. Currently running back 21 on the week, projected 11.8 points projected. Denver's defense has yet to prove that they can actually do anything against an opposing running back here. And while I do think that Jaylen Warren also eats in this one as well, I think this very well could be one of those that the Steelers jump out and just continue to pound the rock and feed Najee multiple times to the point where we could see Najee end up with a 20-plus carry workload on this one, and I think that spells some good things for him. Moving on over to the wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson, a currently wide receiver 51 on the week, projected for about 7.7 points. This is a guy that we saw get some decent volume and some decent opportunity here when Puka went down this last week, and very well could be the guy that sees an uptick and sees some volume there, to the point where this is a guy that wouldn't surprise me if we're seeing get 7, 8, 9 targets when this thing's all said and done this week. So I think there's definitely a path to volume this week for Demarcus Robinson and could put up some good points there. Tight end, I've got Tyler Conklin, currently tight end 17 on the week, 5.8 points projected here. And Tyler Conklin was certainly, didn't get his number called a lot on this Monday night game, was on the field for 90% of the snaps. And this is one of those that he's proven himself as a reliable pass catching tight end in the past. If he's on the field that much, seeing that many opportunity or that much potential for opportunities there, I think that could spell some good things here, and we could see some uptick for him in this week. Any other thoughts on the pine and the shine?
No, sir. Got some ground to make up here, Derek. Got to get after it.
Yes, we does. Alex, we're coming for you. So.
Don't worry, I won't be hard to catch.
I like it. All righty, there are a couple of comments left in the chat here. We're going to go ahead and hit up the ones that are in the chat, and we're going to call it a night. Miko, I'm going to butcher this one, so my apologies. Miko Lajek over on YouTube. Adams, Neighbors, Rice, Tank, Rome, Jamo Williams, start 3, sit 3. Rome is automatically sitting for me on this one. Starting Rice, starting Adams, and I'm going to take Neighbors for the upside.
I'm going to start Rice, Adams, and Jamo.
I'm going to go with Rice, Neighbors, and Jamo.
So we got it whittled down. So consensus is Rice.
Consensus is Rice.
Consensus
the reason I'm a little down on Adams is because they're going to Baltimore. It's in the early window on Sunday, and Baltimore's defense is still Baltimore's defense. And I wasn't all that impressed with what Vegas threw out there on offense in week 1. So I'm not as crazy as for Adams this week.
I trust Minshew far more than Daniel Jones.
Point taken, but I trust that the Commanders' defense is going to give up more opportunities than the Ravens' defense will.
Fair enough. All right, so we for sure got Rice. Kevin, you then said Adams and Jamo.
See.
And
Jamo's my upside, right? That's what I'm taking. Jamo's the upside pick. We talked earlier about how we think this Tampa Bay Detroit game could be more of a shootout. Derek, we'll get into that Friday night when we do our bet set snap. So, I don't want to give too much away there, but I do think I lean that direction with you. Is if this game is going to be a little bit more high scoring, that increases the opportunity for Jamo with some back and forth, and with the Lions being at home, they're not going to have to fight with crowd noise or anything like that. So I think all those things kind of play into Jameson Williams' benefit, and I think I'm going to take Lightning striking twice there as my upside. Rice, that's the consensus. So for me, with it being Adams, I think if you're the Raiders, you had to take away a couple things from your loss to the Chargers. And one of the things that, as I'm looking at it, is your most successful and your most consistent drives came when you were featuring Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jacoby Myers is fine, Brock Bowers did well, but your most consistent drives that led to points involved Devontae Adams, and you just have to find a way to get the ball in his hands at least 7 times. And I don't care if that's in 10 targets. I don't care if that's in 12 targets. I don't care if that's in 17 targets, honestly, because you're going to be throwing to keep up with Baltimore anyway. But you got to get the ball into his hands at least 7 times, figuring he's going to get yards and everything else after the fact. So that puts me at 13, 14 points minimum in a full point PPR. So even if you half that, call it a 10 burger for Devontae Adams, and then if he falls in the end zone, that's money on top. So I'm that's why I'm leaning that route. As bad as the Commanders were, those division matchups get wonky, and typically in the NFC East, those division matchups between the Commanders and the Giants stay relatively low scoring. So points will be at a premium. And I think the Giants defense isn't going to be able to get off the field, which is going to limit opportunities for neighbors.
All right, you talked me into it. I'm switching to the neighbors, or not. I'm switching off the neighbors to Rice Adams JMO. So there you go. Miko, you got the kind of our thoughts there, and how we can kind of rock and roll that, and you can kind of decipher that and do with that information what you will. Appreciate.
I will tell Miko. Kevin waxed the floor with me last week in fantasy, so whatever. Take that for what it's worth.
Okay. And he's saying he's trying to trade 2 of those guys, not including Rice, to get like a top 8 wide receiver. I mean, you could certainly try and potentially package Adams and to try and move up and get somebody. But
I don't think that you need to get cute for a number 2. Like, you can look at either one of Tampa Bay's receivers. Like, you can look at Evans or Godwin as a possibility. Right, wrong, or indifferent, the price for Cooper Kupp has skyrocketed. So I think you just need to say, like,
C'est la vie.
Yeah, that ship has sailed, right? So I don't think you're going to be able to get your hands on CD, Tyreek, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown. Like, I don't think any of those 4 guys are a possibility. So Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably the same way. You're probably not going to be able to get him. So there's 5 that are completely out of the way. So Chase 6. Like, I'm not giving you Chase for any of that. So I think you need to be looking at like Mike Evans. I'm just looking for a trade. I think you start with Devontae Adams because they went about the same range. So I think that kind of puts you into that. Obviously, Mike Evans had a better start than Adams, so it's going to take a small and possibly. But I think if your league mate's willing to have communication with you, I think you start Adams for Evans straight up and see what they say. And kind of go from there. Another guy to look at. Honestly, I still have a lot of faith in DK. I have a lot of faith in Debo this year. Like, those are other guys that you could target too, and look at some things there. So I think that's kind of the range that I would probably start looking at is DK, Debo, Mike Evans for Devontae Adams, and a 4th string running back or something like that on your team.
All right, I like it. Question coming in on YouTube: should I trade Justin Jefferson for Aaron Jones and Debo Samuel in a half-point PPR?
Do you need running back help?
I'm kind of held up on the Justin Jefferson side of the things there, right? Like, that comes down to when it really comes to it, I want the best player in the deal. Justin Jefferson is by far the best player in this deal. The points
Debo becomes sexy because of this McCaffrey injury.
Right.
And it really comes down to how how you decipher and how you take in that information, right? If you think this McCaffrey injury is going to be a little bit more long-term, I think as good as Jordan Mason is, you have a little bit more potential and a little bit more hope for some of that old school Debo rushing attack, right? Where he was wide receiver, what was it, 2 or 3 or whatever, and just kind of bonkers there out of the backfield. And while I don't think that completely returns, the touches and opportunity, or at least to some extent, will be there. So if you think CMC's coming back in, this week, next week, something like that, and then it's going to return to status quo, I don't know that I'm doing this. Jefferson then becomes clearly the best player in the trade, and I'm not giving him up. But if you have any real doubts about McCaffrey's ability to maintain his normal workload once he returns, then I think Debo's opportunity in a better offense might outweigh Jefferson's raw talent. And then Aaron Jones is the icing on the cake.
I like it. Any other thoughts on this one? Andres over on YouTube, full PPR, 12 person, have Kamara and Henry. Should I entertain the idea of playing Mason instead?
I'm not, until I get more information on what's going on with San Francisco this week. So check back with us Friday and see if we have any more information for you. But at the moment, I'm not doing that. I'm going to play Kamara and Derrick Henry. Potentially Mason in your flex. I mean, unless you have 3 really good wide receiver options, you could always play those 3 running backs, and I don't think that's terrible, but you definitely have to keep an ear to the ground on what this McCaffrey injury situation looks like. And does he start practicing tomorrow? Does he start practicing Thursday? Is he, a non-participant both of those days, and he's a game time decision for Sunday? Like, I hate game time decisions, so then maybe you find a way to squeeze them in. But if all things are created equal and we know McCaffrey's coming back in any capacity, then I'm not playing Mason.
Yeah, I would agree. Miko was saying that their running backs are Achane, Hall, so that's no question. But for the wide receivers, feel like they have to stream them based on the matchup, which might be hard to be consistent. Certainly could be, but again, right? Like Devontae Adams, if having him as a wide receiver too isn't a bad place to be at. But if you want to certainly kind of trade out of that and all that, Kevin gave some really good thoughts and pointers on that potential there. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, you could look at one of the Houston receivers too.
Yeah.
Nico's another guy. Like, I think there's plenty of guys in that range of talent that if you're looking for something with the possibility of more consistency, maybe it's just better quarterback play to that receiver, then I think you have some options. I just think you need to be in that same realm. Like, you're not going to want to overpay necessarily just to have that top 8 tight end. Like, I think there's a lot of options in that same wheelhouse that you could look at. Michael Pittman would be on the very low end of that same list. Like, there's just a lot of options there that you can play with without having to overpay for another receiver.
Yeah. Alrighty. I like. They gave us their roster on that Justin Jefferson trade. Running backs were Kyron, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Olave, Drake London, DJ Moore. It is an 8-team league. So part of the reason for the massive stack there. All right.
So I really don't know if I'm doing it, because you're never going to have Aaron Jones in your lineup.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're just not. So it does. I don't know. I don't think that does anything for me, because with having those running backs, I feel like then it's just a straight up trade, and I would rather lean on the raw talent of Jefferson.
Yep.
And even if I'm wrong, bank on CeeDee Lamb than anything else. Like, if anything, I'd counter, Olave or Drake London for Debo and just see what the guy does. Again,
Right.
all the same range, right? Drake London was drafted before him. Chris Olave was drafted right around him. Like, if you're just looking to get more top end receiver help, I mean, even if you wanted to pair up Olave and DJ Moore to get Debo, I think I might even do that and be entertained by it. So, just a thought.
Yeah, I like it. Last one of the night. Andres was saying that they appreciate it, all of the advice, and that they're going to tune in and subscribe for Friday. That's their first year doing fantasy, so still learning all of the tricks with that one. And absolutely, Andres, I like the thought there. Make sure that you're clicking the like button, clicking the subscribe button. Appreciate everybody tuning in and all the comments and in the chat. Kevin and I'll be back on Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, for the Bet Set Snap and the Fantasy Football Weekly Huddle there, as we go through all of the games on the slate and answer all the questions coming in there as well. But guys, I do think that's going to do it for us. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
No, thank you. Thank you for the participation and questions and comments. It makes the shows a lot of fun. So we definitely appreciate it. But make sure you go to YouTube, hit like and subscribe, so that way you get the notifications every time we go live. At Good Old Boys FF is the best way to get a hold of us for any type of questions, and we do our best to get back to you just as soon as we possibly can. And other than that, we'll catch y'all on Friday.
Yeah, enjoy the Friday show with the two of them. I'll be earning the dollar. It's not big bucks and it's not dollars.
Well, we'll see Alex. We'll see Alex back on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday.
So, just blow it up on a Tuesday. All righty. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, all the good stuff there. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.